Yeah, you guys start. You let them finish there. So was it upstairs?
No, this is for the video,
Are you
which
sure?
is on right now.
Last time. Every class.
For now, I'm just gonna let it keep going because I don't want to know what happens if I end it and have to redo everything. You okay with that?
I think everybody's done now. Good. So, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Where are you at? Okay, so we begin, inshallah, with this. We go back to this point that, with regard to the what they call the inqita' al-wahi, or the pausing of the wahi. One of the things that we look at, we see this concept here. Mullah Ali Qari, rahmatullahi alayhi, last time we talked about how there was really no opinion from the opinions that were out there that allowed us to have like a solid understanding of exactly what was the break between Surah Al-Alaq and Surah Al-Mudaththir. And so here we see that Mullah Ali Qari says, وكانت المدة سنتين ونصف. That's what he begins with in this top piece right here. That it was 2.5 years. And then another opinion comes in that it was, maybe like close to 10 days or something like that. And then Surah Al-Duha came. That's an opinion. Imam al-Baydawi, he came in, he says that the narration, he said that it was, the wahi was narrated, it was delayed by some days. And then you see that the break in the wahi, they start to describe what it is. Was it the complete pausing of revelation? So they say that, some like Ibn Hajar here, he says that no, it was just a delay. It was just a delay. And so some of them said, that it was a delay by a few years, right? Like in this piece right here. Sorry about that. Like in that piece right there, it says that it was a period of 3 years. Some of them said 40 days. That was an opinion that was related on by Imam Ahmed. You find that it was repeated by Imam Tahir ibn Ashur. And so with exactitude, we're not going to get anything, to give us something exact. And so with that issue, the ulama, they tried, right? They tried to come to some sort of conclusion. And that is from the investigation into the Quran. But it's not really necessary, right? It's really not necessary to have an understanding. Here it says that, in the tariq, what's found in the tariq of Imam Ahmed, and see here you're going to get what the muhaddithin are saying from Shu'bah, that the muddat al-fatra al-wahi is 30 days. And so Ibn Ishaq, he came to that conclusion, as well. And others, some people will say something different. I don't even want to go into all of the details of that. And there's no problem with that. The most important piece to get from here, that it wasn't a complete break in the revelation. It was a delay. And part of the reason, like amongst us as Muslims, there's something that sometimes we may be a little loose on because we believe in Islam. But it's important to introduce this idea that it's really an issue of delay, right? Because the non-Muslims, they come in and they make some arguments about it and cause some doubts. So even though we may have said that the revelation came to an end, they begin to bring doubts into that issue. And then they start to accuse the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam of having psychological issues. So the issue here is the issue of here that we get. Here is right here. It's a delay. تأخيره تأخر مدة من الزمان. That's it. That it's a delay. It's not, and if they say inqita' is like qata' is a break, like it's actually cut off. If they say that, then we go back, say fine, we understand that this is an academic point that we're talking about now. We understand that. We understand some of the scholars say complete break, but because we want to also defend ourselves, we say hold on a second. So we block the means. Those who try to inject an idea of uncertainty to the point where at least the skepticism, I don't even want to say doubt, I'm saying to the point where at least the skepticism We say that the revelation just was delayed. That's important to understand. And that's why when we were talking about that point, right, we were asking how many days. It's difficult to get a tahqiq, a verification on it, right? So we may find some scholars, they may say, yes, in our investigation, we came to this point. But it's not 100% necessary to go into a lot of details. You know, the shorter period of time becomes workable. But still, like I said, some of them said a couple years, some of them said a few months, some of them said a few days, like that. And that's according to whatever investigation that they had. Sometimes in some issues, and this is what we say even in fiqh, ta'arrud al-aqisa. Sometimes when there's issues that are not clearly mentioned in Islam, like an actual position, you know, that is, it can go back to a clear text, whether ayah of the Quran or a hadith or even a statement of the companions or whatever. Sometimes the scholars will, in an attempt to fill the gap, somebody had a question, say, well, let's investigate that and let's see. And there may be some indications. What's something like that that comes up every year that some of us claim we know with certainty? The moon sighting is a little different. The moon sighting is a little different because the moon sighting, either you're going to go with calculation or you saw it by eye or you heard it by a report that's valid. Right? So it's more, the issue of the moon sighting is more organizational. Did we agree to the method? That's the issue with the moon sighting, right? And then some people may make some mistakes or whatever, but usually it's organizational. That's why it seems like confusing. But Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr, yes, we have a text that indicates, you know, that Laylatul Qadr and Waqt Muhaddid, that is a time that is determined. But in reality, we have another text that said that we lost the meaning, we lost the knowing when Laylatul Qadr would take place because the Sahaba, they were disputing amongst themselves. And so if you go, the general discourse of the Muslims, we claim to know when Laylatul Qadr is, but when you really go deep, the ulama have differences of opinion. Even to the extent of saying that Laylatul Qadr can come outside of Ramadan, or to the extent of saying that Laylatul Qadr is in the beginning of Ramadan, or Laylatul Qadr can come, you know, on the, we know the odd nights and all this, but some of the ulama said, come on, let's bring this to an end. Ramadan is a time when you engage in ijtihad and ibadah, you exert yourself. That's what we mean by ijtihad. You put your full exertion, all your capacities in it. Who really is concerned when the exact date of Laylatul Qadr is? Let's talk honestly. Who is really concerned? Is it the musallin that come from the beginning and they're exerting, putting themselves in the spiritual soldier mode? You know, cut back on eating, cut back on this, make sure my schedule's point, I'm at the masjid. Is it that person that's on that routine, or is it the one that wants to come on that day that they claim that it is, right? And then you don't see them any other day. And it's like a big celebration. Whereas the rest of the Musallin that are interested in taking the full benefit of Ramadan, they're at the beginning of Ramadan in the masjid, making the effort, exerting themselves. To them is like, for them, every day is like Laylatul Qadr. They're searching for, yes, on the odd nights or whatever, but for them in the effort, every day is Laylatul Qadr. They don't want to miss any part of it. You get what I'm saying? So they don't get caught up into the intellectual debate. They get more involved in what can I benefit from when it comes to that. So there's some things like that in the, like sometimes these types of things like this, it puts us in a bad mode in the sense that we start, you know, being all over the place and arguing and debating. You guys get the point or no? Some things is not necessary to go into a lot of detail. But if there was that questioning that came, they investigated. Okay, something, it's not a point that's gonna create too much doubt. I wanted to review this because I wanted to try to do overall review for where we're at. This is extremely important, people. Extremely important that we leave away with a commitment to this. Right? I only mentioned this in a general way before. Right? But the Quranic chapters or the surah of the Quran, the most apparent division or categorization or classification is Mecca Medini. We talked about that. So how is it that the ulama came to understand these points? What does Mecca mean? What does Medini mean? So they came to understand that division in three ways. One, Mecca refers to everything revealed in Mecca, and Medina refers to everything revealed in Medina, regardless of whether this was before the Hijrah or after. Mecca refers to the discourse aimed at the people of Mecca, and Medini refers to the discourse for the people at Medina, meaning that the Quran is addressed to the people of Mecca. That's what they call Mecca. Quran is addressed to the people of Medina. That's what they call Medini. That's one school of thought. Mecca refers, lastly, in this third one, to every chapter revealed before the Hijrah, and Medini, everything revealed after the Hijrah. Right? Right. So that is the opinion which is pretty much, most popular and correct. So what's the difference between 1 and 3? Mecca refers to everything revealed in Mecca, and Medini refers to everything revealed in Medina, regardless of whether it was before the Hijrah or after. So the Hijrah is not a determining point. You with me? Don't get lost on me now. Mecca here, we said the people of Mecca, the people of Medina. But this is the most common. The last. That Mecca refers to every chapter revealed before the Hijrah, right? And Medini, everything revealed after the Hijrah. And then there's details to that. There's details to that because some of you're going to find that there's some details. You'll see. So here, some of the characteristics of Mecca. They mention of the stories of the prophets and the nations and the way that the prophet made da'wah to them. So anytime you see a story in the Quran that is referring to the past and you see that it's talking about the prophets, you get this understanding that is Mecca. And then you tie it to this, that okay, this was, before the Hijrah, so to speak. And so if you tie it to that in that way, and you have a relationship with the seerah to the point where you can develop early period of the dawah, middle period of dawah, later period of the dawah within the context of Mecca, you can envision what took place. Are you guys with me so far? So what would be the function of the stories of the prophets in that context? In the context that you're in Mecca.
Iman and faith and basic things.
Mm-hmm.
The Sharia.
Yeah, Tawheed. What else is important? Akhirah. Sometimes some of the ulama from India and Pakistan, and they do this from an angle of tarbiyah. And some of the brothers, they don't understand this so much. They do it from an angle of spiritual development of the people. And even I've heard this from some of the elders in the African American community that have been dealing with scholars from over there for a long time. They say the advice that we have been given here in this country, that's what they say, stuff like that, is that we put our hearts on akhirah. Why would you think that they say that? On akhirah.
The
Yeah. The materialism, it becomes the materialism, there's temptation area, but there's a lot of openness. There's a lot of openness. So then it becomes like even sometimes, let's be honest. And I'm not asking anybody to reveal themselves or whatever, but let's be honest, even sometimes when it comes like in this time period right now, I'll ask a question. Who thinks that making salah and right now in this seasonal time period, at this time that we're living in, is difficult here in Chicago? Who thinks it's easy? Who thinks it's difficult? Raise your hands if you think it's difficult. Is it? I find it to be difficult because the salah are all back to back. Yeah. No, for right now in the time of the winter. The winter spreads out. But for right now, especially before a little later when we switch seasons, it's just like, what just happened? You know what I'm saying? It becomes difficult. Part of the difficulty is that the society around you is not with you on that. Your job is not with you on it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you may be in a part where there's maybe no musalla, no masjid, no nothing. Or you may be on the highway or whatever. Or you visit the hospital, wife called, they want this, and kids are saying, where are you? And, the work is saying, we have a deadline, and you're just like all over the place, right? So then that whole issue of the focus on the akhirah becomes reorient yourself, right? But if you focus too much, just like the akhirah, then it becomes like, now your wife is saying, where are you? You know what I'm saying? You're like, I'm at the masjid. Yeah, but I told you to go pick up the kids. You know what I'm saying? The real life clashes. Let's not talk about anything pie in the sky. But in this environment, in any event, so they say focus on the akhirah. They have some point to that. But when those scholars say that, they're trying to build the ruhaniyat in the people. They're not trying to tell you, because the opposite extreme, and this has happened in the da'wah, the opposite extreme is abandon all responsibilities and just focus on salah and focus on the spiritual, and then you and yourself, you're broken because you have that tension. You have that tension. No, like taking care of the kids is ibadah. Being part of the society can be an act of ibadah. If you're an awesome business person and you're a good person in business, and man, if you're an awesome mechanic, trustworthy mechanic. Everybody wants to be a doctor, but what about the trustworthy mechanic? We all know about the mechanic that rips us off for $1,000, $2,000. Then we have to go pay another mechanic, and by the time we realize in half a month, we are $3,000, $4,000 in debt. That's not an exaggeration. But the point being is that you're in the dunya, and just engaging in the dunya, if you engage in a good way with people, that's an act of ibadah. Let's not be secular minded in the sense that everything is only in the masjid and then everything out there is bad. That's not true. We ourselves want to find those good people to engage in, to engage with. So this gives us a tarbiyah. So enough of that type of khutbah, type of talk. But the stories, it gives us that. It gives us that appreciation. Another thing that comes in, and this is why me personally, I have a problem with the way that Aqidah is taught. Because Aqidah is taught in an oppositional way. We bring academic disagreements from the beginning. This one is Shi'i, this one is Sufi, this one is Salafi, this one is this one is that. I just want to know, like, what's my relationship with Allah Ta'ala at this point? I'm in a world of temptations, right? I'm struggling with my iman. I'm the only one that's praying. Everybody else, my friends at school are not praying. My colleagues at work are not telling me, I'm pretty much, in order, I feel the Islamophobia. So pretty much I have to go in, and I'm going into work and maintaining. But, and maintaining, people don't really understand me 100% as a Muslim. I'm not really interested in how you interpret the names of Allah in this way or that way, or what debates you got. I'm interested in my relationship with Allah because I'm trying to have a relationship with Allah so I can continue my life. Bottom line. I'm not interested in the sectarian debates. And see what I'm saying? Some of us, that's where we're at. I'm interested in understanding how I can tie on to Allah, because I don't know if I'm going to get another contract next week. Or I don't, they cut my medical insurance, or, reality of life. So the Quran, it gives us a basic foundation about the existence of Allah. I'm not interested in debating the atheists. I'm not interested in anything else. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to present that human being in the ummah that is just average human being. We're going through life issues, and we're not interested in anything other than a basic fundamental thing. So the Quran, it gives us that. The Quran, we have to appreciate the Quran. The academic stuff has its place. I may want to know how to talk with the atheists. I may want to understand why there's differences between the Sunni and the Shia. I may want to understand that, is this okay to believe, or is it like a Hindu belief or not? I may want to, but that's an academic issue. That's not a foundational, basic way to approach my belief in Allah. At the foundational level, should be clear. So I agree with you, you agree with me. We're foundationally at the same level. And then when we start to disagree with each other, say, hold on, okay, fine. Let's leave the academic debate. We have a core unity between us. So that's the thing. So the unity issue. Today, my daughter asked me, do we come, actually, when we were just getting out of the car, do we come back as, to the same earth, or do we come back as dogs, or what? Says, we come back. We're resurrected, so we're human beings. So I let them go with that. Converse with them through Aqidah. I don't do the academic stuff with them like that. Because it's from them, their natural questioning. Their natural questioning. They themselves will ask you issues of Iman and so on and so forth. So they learn we have to teach them the usul, though, the most foundational point. So another thing is this. This is in the struggle of life, getting some comfort. Right? When the Prophet ﷺ, he should have capitalized that out of adab. But the Prophet ﷺ, in the struggle of life, just like as human beings, that's the beautiful thing. We were sent a prophet that's a human being, not an angel, not someone we can't relate to. And we're not talking about a prophet that, alayhi salatu wasalam, didn't live a normal life. So these stories, they're sent as a comfort, and also inviting to how to deal with the struggle. In the midst of understanding that there's an opposition, not only to the issue of the dawah from the angle of inviting people to Islam, but just practicing the deen. Just practicing the deen, has become difficult. So those are some of the things that we get out of the Mecca orientation, right? And then generally, we can understand that they are, usually is the sword that are small, short. All you guys know that, right? Like the 29th Jews and the 30th Jews. And by the way, a lot of times the 29th Jews and the 30th Jews, or the last parts of the Quran, a lot of times we belittle this because we say, oh, everybody knows those swords. But guess what? That was the foundation of the deen. We may think that we know them, but that was those were the things that were firstly revealed. Not Surah Al-Baqarah, Ali Imran, that didn't come first. So what would be the purpose of shortness of the sword? That they come short. What would be the purpose of that? And what else? Easy memorize. And what else? If it's clear, if you can memorize it, what comes next from the? Huh? Yes, that's the way that the Sahaba learned. It was clear and understanding. They memorized it, and they understood, right, what they had to practice, and they practiced. You see the difference in education, and so then, how do we, how are we learning the Quran? Are we learning it in that modality or in that way? Short, easy, sweet, understand, ready to practice. Are we learning it in that way? How are we learning it?
I mean, majority of
You can even know the actual meaning. Some people, one of the young brothers, he actually studied because of some of the scandals that have been released recently. He would say like, where you're at and where I'm at. He said, I'm at the beginning stage in all of this. You have some experience. He said, and I was mentioning you to somebody. He said, and we had to ask, is it really that bad? And then he said, I'm kind of feeling that it really is that bad because of whatever it is he went through. Talk about the condition of the ummah. Some people, I develop a bad relationship with people at a certain point because I put it on the table. We're going through this. I'm not asking you who's perfect, who's not perfect, whose iman is high, whose iman is low. I'm asking who's willing to put their hands together and say, let's sit down, let's come up with a plan of how we're going to address it. The reason why I'm mentioning that is because between Detroit and Minnesota, we have Hufaz of the Quran that they have just lost it. They lost it in the streets, on drugs, on this, on that. And they'll say, oh, it's just this one community. No, it's not just this one community. And see, sometimes we don't realize you could be a person of ibadah. I got a call from New York. A sister, she went against, this was about a year ago. She went against her family. And the sister, niqabi, what we say in Arab, multazima, she's on the deen. She told the family, she said, I want to marry this brother because he has deen. You guys want me to marry based on culture? He has deen. And she called me. She said, after so many years, he lost it. He broke down. No deen anymore. You understand what I'm saying? So you can have it. You can have the practice. You can be salah. You can be Quran. You can have the practice. You can come outside, you're dressed and you look like a Muslim. Right? Like the brother was saying, there's challenges in the dunya. But you can also lose it. So that, the issue is that this was done. Was it done as an individual? The memorization and understanding and the practice of the Quran. Huh? Okay. So what we said, there were 3 steps. What were they? Message clear. Memorization. Practicing. Did they do that alone?
Some things you cannot do alone.
Oh, we should be clear you can't do it alone. We should be clear you can't do it alone. So that we stop being egoistic and arrogant and this, that with each other. Till we get to the point of saying we need each other. Of course, we need Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. But Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala facilitated for us. What do we tell the children about marriage? What do we say to them about marriage? What are some of the reasons why? Where's the popular hadith that's quoted about marriage? Have the deen. Because you can't live your life alone. That's part of the issue. If you're a man or you're a woman, especially if you're a man, you need the companionship. Actually, women sometimes are a little more controlled than the men. But it's beginning to be a little twisted in this time period. But in any event, you can't do it alone, right? Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Yusuf. Wa alaikum salam, Yusuf. How are you doing, Yusuf? I'm doing okay, Yusuf. This is me talking to myself. Is it possible to even go and give the salams to practice the salam by yourself? Is that possible? Okay, fine. You're going to salam the angels and the jinn. The most fundamental aspects of the deen can be practiced alone. Right? And that's the same thing, we're expecting the youth to move at it alone. They're not going to move at it. They need a community. That's the reality. They need a community. We need community. So the Sahaba, you think that they didn't go? This was in the time period of Jahiliyyah. What are some of the characteristics of Jahiliyyah? Yes. But what does that mean for us? That's the personal issue, the spiritual issues, and they manifest itself in different ways in the society, where taken from the people's rights. But you had a breakdown in family. You had all kinds of stuff. No human dignity and this and that. So in the midst of all of those struggles, right, they had to deal with that madness, but they made effort to do it together. There was no way to be able to practice the deen without doing it together. So the point that I'm saying here is that when we look at this, there's some real educational goals from the Mecca and Quran. Let's not deal with the perfect individual. Let's not deal with that person that's the wali on the earth. Let's deal with people that are struggling. Let's put ourselves in that position. If we're struggling with the deen, okay, the Quran is coming to reinforce certain things for us, to bring us back to the issue of the existence of Allah, to bring us back to the fact that we are human beings with a human body, that the body comes to it, meaning we die. So then the question that comes is like, what comes after? And so unto these lessons becomes like, okay, when you start talking about the temptation, really we're talking about sins. What do we say about Jannah and Jahannam? What's the hadith about Jannah and Jahannam? Jahannam is surrounded by what? If they were just surrounded by fire, huh? Yes. The fire is surrounded by pleasure. So the pleasure takes us right into the fire. But if it was clearly the fire, would you stick your hand in the fire? Yeah, this thing about Jahannam is Jahannam is a very real reality. We see the effects right now in front of us. We see it in the family life, in the political life. We see the impact of Jahannam on the dunya. But it comes to the issue of the desire. Nobody, if it was just fire, nobody in their right mind will go into Jahannam. You see what I'm saying? Nobody in their right mind will go into Jahannam. It's like if I tell you, don't go down that block, it's not safe. You have $100,000 on you. And the people have these computer devices where they can see how much money is in everybody's pocket, and they're plotting on you and planning. And everybody's telling you, don't go. We've had the experience. The person went down the block and they get robbed and they can get killed and whatever. We don't know. And then you decide to go down the block. And that's how it is with the issue of Jahannam. You know what I'm saying? That Jahannam is like, the threat is very clear. If you want to go to Jahannam, do you want to go to Jahannam? Nobody's going to say, I want to go to Jahannam. But it's okay. Now, if you don't know that, if the blinders come on, if you don't know that this is an area that this happens in, and then you immediately go to the trap. I like the example. How many of you have backyards? How many of you in the backyard, you put the zap devices, zaps for the bugs? Or even the candles. When you invite the friends over, you put the scented candles. What's the nature of that? What happens to the bugs? Something's attract them, zap. That's how Jahannam is. So in this time period, Jannah and Jahannam was such a reality for them that it helped them in this point. And that's the struggle that we have. Using the Quranic education to put us in that mode where Jannah and Jahannam is a real reality for us. To break from the blinders. And so that's what we see. So we want to see the interconnectedness of the Quran. We'll look at that right now. Anything? Anybody has anything to say? Nothing.
Where is this material? Is it like from Tafhim?
That's like that one is from Journey Through the Quran, and the brother took it from aspects of the Tafhim. He added on to it. He's a brother from the UK. He studied, and it was part of a program that he used. He used the Quran in. Trying to go to the Tafhim right now in the digital form.
Can we add the last point? You said that
Uh-huh.
the last point was the previous screen. Uh, uh, the message was easy message. They memorize it, they practice it. But these things become easier in the presence of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So it has, it has. I know that we don't have Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but how are we going to relate our life to that kind of environment? I know we have a Quran. Yes.
Right. We have the Quran stands for what?
Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
The Quran stands for what? What is the Quran? The speech of Allah. So what is the Sunnah? Right. So one of the things that we said about this is one of the things that we want to see right now in the short period of time that we have with regard. Let's do it backward. Let's do this backward. Let's go to Surah Al-Fatiha. You have Surah Al-Fatiha. You had Surah Al-Qalam before it. That's revealed. Surah Al-Fatiha. But I want you to see something here. And I'll say it first of all. I myself didn't realize this until this ordering of the Tafhim. We took the chapter headings and we put them in the order of revelation. We said that before, so that we can try to see how it is that the Quran was revealed. What were the lessons? So I'll pause and so we can see this. Okay, Surah Al-Fatiha is revealed after Surah Al-Qalam. But it says here, it is one of the earliest revelations to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As a matter of fact, we learn from authentic traditions, from ahadith. So the Tafhim includes ahadith to prove the point. The issue that scholars have contention with Maulana Maududi is some things that he has said about the Prophet Muhammad, the prophets, and some things that he has said about like Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, and some things like some things maybe they may see that is kind of political. But here it's very clear that the Tafhim is rooting itself in the Sunnah too. Everybody has their own issues, their mistakes and all that. Is that Maulana Maududi wants at the end of the day action. That's the reality. Some of the Ahl al-Hadith scholars, they say, well, how can you say that the arkan of Islam is training the people, giving them an education so that they can build a Islamic society? No, they say the goal is ibad. But Maulana Maududi is not going to deny that. He's looking at it and this is not to defend him, it's from a point of understanding. But he's looking at it from the angle, what did the companions do? What did the Prophet do? At the end, all of their education was to build a community. If we just stay focused on just the arkan from the angle of, I'm just making my salah and that's it. I'm paying my zakat and that's it. I'm making my fasting and that's it. I'm going to hajj and that's it. And none of that ibadah has anything to do with the community other than we're doing it together. We're doing hajj together. We're praying, fasting Ramadan. We do that now. We do all of that now. You have Salat al-Jama'ah, you have fasting Ramadan, you have zakat, you have hajj. But where's the condition of the ummah? So that's kind of the debate that he's getting in. So in any event, let's put that to the side. So here he roots it in. He roots the tafhim in this sunnah from the angle of he's using the sunnah to understand the Quran. But there's another point that I want to show you. It is one of the very earliest revelations to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay? It was the first complete. We said Surah Al-Alaq was the first part of the Quran to be revealed, but the first 5 ayat, not the whole complete. But this is the first complete surah to be revealed. There's debates whether it was revealed twice in Mecca or Medina, but that's just the academic stuff. But it was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before this, only a few miscellaneous verses were revealed from which form parts of Surah Al-Alaq, Surah Al-Muzammil, Surah Al-Mudaththir, right? And Surah Al-Qalam. So this surah is in fact a prayer which Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has taught all of those who want to make a study of the Quran. We talked about how to benefit, right? In today's time. So knowing the role and the function of the Quran itself. It has been placed at the very beginning of the Quran, although it wasn't the first thing to be revealed. And the Mus'haf is placed at the beginning, right? To teach this lesson to the reader. If you sincerely want to benefit from the Quran, you should offer this prayer, which in the reality is the reciting of the Fatiha. Okay. So, did you learn anything from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam here? Did you learn anything about him? Alayhi salatu wasalam. Everybody's quiet. Everybody wants to sleep today. The Fatiha, but I asked a specific question. That's a good addition. But did we learn anything about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam here right now?
About Surah Fatiha, related to Surah Fatiha, or
Yeah, in this context here. Okay, Surah Al-Alaq, let's relate it back to tie-in. Sorry to cut you off. We said this in Surah Al-Alaq, the first 5 ayat, where were they revealed? In Mecca, where? Okay, why did he go to the cave of Hira? What did he? No, he was looking for something. Not just for meditation. Remember, we said in Rahiq Makhtoum that one of the unique features of Rahiq Makhtoum, in about a line or two, the Sirah book, he mentions, Shaykh Mubarak Furi rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentions that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and we began the whole reflection on the Quran with that. He was looking for guidance for the community. The amazing thing here is that this is telling us this is one of the earliest complete surah of the Quran that's revealed. Prior to that, and that's why I said let's go backwards. Let's begin from this point, from the surah that's revealed in its entirety, and then let's go backward. We talked about alaq a little bit. It talked about the human being, and that begins the first exit spiritually and intellectually from Jahiliyyah. That we think about ourselves. Let's be open here. Right now, one of the most points of confusion is about our biological identity right now in this society. Surah Al-Alaq begins with your biological identity. Part of your biological identity, not all of your biological identity, part of it has to do with sex, male, female. But at the core of the male and the female is the human being. See what I'm saying? Either way, you're going to have to come back to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Either you come back willingly or you come back dragged, because everybody has to die. You see what I'm saying? And we have that either your ruh will come out easy or snatched out. Either way. That's the struggle that we're in. We're Muslims, but we're in the struggle of trying to be on the right side of that struggle. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of make it easy for ourselves. Right? Because just because we say La ilaha illallah doesn't mean we won't go to hell. It means that we're promised, we have a commitment with Allah. Allah tells us in the teachings that we won't stay there. Right? La ilaha illallah will remove us from hell, but it doesn't mean that the Sahaba never had the mentality that I'm Muslim, chosen people. Never had that mentality. So if you go back and you look at the lives of the Sahaba, they felt like they were munafiqun. Not that we should be, I'm a munafiq. Not that type of, I don't want to go to that because sometimes people will take it to the extreme. But they had a level of spiritual awareness of themselves that immediately made them humble before Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and each other. Right? That's important. And so, but that's what we see from the beginning. So here we're being told that, okay, now we can get that guidance. If we want to benefit from the revelation from before, we can get that guidance. Right? This preface is meant to create a strong desire in the heart of the reader to seek guidance from Rabbul Alameen, right? Who alone can grant it. Nobody else can. How many of you have gone through really hard life situations? Really hard life situations. No volunteers? Today everybody's sleeping. I'm going to have to buy all of you coffee from now on. Have you ever been in a life situation that no matter who you go to, they can't help you? There's life situations that the pain is so heavy, nobody can take it away except Allah. Nobody can take it away except Allah. And you know what? You have to wait till when Allah takes you out of that situation. Nobody else. It doesn't matter. You can have money, you can have friends, you can have help, you can have food, you can have this, you can have that. But that when it strikes you, nothing is beneficial in that regard, right? Except Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala pulling you out. Who knows the experience of Yunus, the Prophet Yunus alayhi salatu wasalam? What's the dua that he made? Min al-Zalimin. At the end, regardless of what he wanted to do, he had to admit, oh Allah, you're perfect. Forgive me. I was from those who oppressed myself. That's the issue of the asbab. When the asbab, they all lock on you. Because there's another side of it. There's the issue of istidraj. May Allah protect us. And that's why some things we can only see through the understanding of wahi. The flashlight or the lamp of wahi. Like the story of Musa and Khidr. Alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam did not understand what was going on with Khidr. I personally don't understand why a whole country like Yemen is destroyed. And you have multitudes of babies and innocent people, and it happens to be at the hands of Muslims. I don't understand that. I'm not, for me, I'm not even questioning Allah on that point. And it's not because I'm some sort of holy person. It's that I'm more like, where are human beings at, right? I don't understand the hikmah that Allah can bring out of that. Some people may not be like with the disgust of the human beings, but they immediately go to where? They have disgust with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Because they immediately blame Allah for the situation, right? And so when we see in that situation, though, the dunya has all kinds of experiences. That's why the stories are important. In the story of Yunus alayhi salatu wasalam, you see the struggle of the self, and he's a holy person, is the holiest in the dunya. And but all the asbab are cut off. But also when you look at the story of Musa and Khidr, you see a similar reality. You know what I'm saying? That we know what Sharia is, we know what right and wrong is. And so we go by right and wrong in the context of the Sharia, but there's things that beyond that is not understandable as far as why this happens, why this doesn't. But then you look back afterwards, hindsight 2020 as they say, and then you see all kinds of hikmah comes out of it. It's just that the qadr in that regard is that there's a certain type of bitterness that comes. Qadr is both sweet and bitter. But we never blame Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala for things that human beings do. We know everything is in the qadr of Allah. But human beings, we hold them accountable. Right? But the point being is that we want to get an understanding of Rabbul Alameen. That Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is the one that created, takes care of everything, guides it, maintains it, sends the Rasul of the universe. There's some situations which will humiliate us until we come out and we say, Ya Allah, subhanaka, la ilaha illa ant, inni kuntu min al-zalimin. That we have to admit, or we have to, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, we have to admit, right? So the dunya, sometimes it will press the heart to that point. So, so when we say Rabbul Alameen, we want to get that understanding. So Fatiha indirectly teaches us that the best thing for the human being is to pray for guidance to the straight path, right? We don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to hit on that regard. So look at this now, Surah Al-Qalam. It consists of 3 themes, right? But before that, it was one of the earliest surah also to be revealed at Mecca. Its subject matter shows that it was sent down at a time when opposition to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see how the tafhim is tying into the seerah, and we're seeing how the Quran is relating to spiritual situations and situations that are going on in the community. So there's opposition that's here. It's in the context of Mecca, right? So we know of the opposition where this was not in the earliest period of Mecca. It was close to that because opposition was not there immediately in the forefront of the Meccan period. You see that when the dawah first began, there wasn't a lot of opposition. Surah Al-Alaq, we said it was broken up into 2 parts. The second part involves who? Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl is representative of what? Aside from the Jahiliyyah, what did he do to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He had opposition. Right, and so that shows you, it shows you where the Quran, how the Quran is being revealed in different situations, right? But it's also tying you're walking with the Prophet. That's actually what seerah means, the life walk. So this is where now we're beginning to see, like Surah Al-Fatiha. We've seen that context. So here, we're seeing this context. How the Quran, Surah Al-Qalam, is coming in this time period is related to the opposition. Okay, what types of opposition? Right, those who object. Right? What type of themes? Those who object initially, then the administration of giving the da'wah and warning, and then the Quran is exhorting, is support. The Quran is not just saying, go handle this difficult task and be the super person. The Quran is encouraging. We need encouragement, brothers and sisters. This thing is difficult. Even for our youth. They need encouragement. It's not just commanded, do this, they need encouragement. We need encouragement because you can definitely have issues, right? So this is part of the opposition, that they were distorting the image of who the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. They understood early on that's why they say, some of the writers say in tafsir and Islamic thought, they say don't believe that Quraysh didn't understand the meaning of la ilaha illallah. Quraysh understood it 100%. How did they understand? Did you think they had a problem? Do you think Quraysh had a problem with saying that Allah exists? No. Quraysh didn't have a problem with saying Allah exists because that's in the fitrah of everybody. Everyone had their prophets. Even we go to the cave of Hira, the example, Ibrahim was someone that was known. They knew about the people of the book to some degree. No, they understood that it will have to mean a change in themselves, opposition. So here we see that how it's related to the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Surah Al-Muzammil. So here the theme comes, these first 7 verses, right? They come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been commanded, prepare yourself to shoulder the responsibilities of the da'wah. It's not difficult. And so what is that command? The issue of tahajjud. The issue of tahajjud, praying the tahajjud. Everybody knows what tahajjud is, right? So this is, the Quran itself is telling us about the tahajjud. So what is the picture that we're getting about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam so far? Through the Quran itself. What is the picture that we're getting about Allah? What is the picture that we're getting about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Who can reflect? Who can give us a reflection?
More the challenge, the closer you're supposed to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get a comfort.
Is there a denial that the life has a challenge to it?
There will be challenge. Once you go into that path, challenges will be there. Because that's I think I can say that's one of the reasons why people of Quraysh, they didn't want to accept the message, because that means they have to change.
Yes.
And even in this society,
Yeah.
if you go with the flow, there's no problem.
That's the beginning of, if we go back to Jahiliyyah, Surah Al-Alaq, remember that he's coming out of Jahiliyyah, is like, what do I do with all of this? This what's going on with my family, my community, what do I do with all of that? So that what do I do as a question, Allah is the one that responds to that question. And if you really want to deal with it, there's going to be, if you really want to deal with the struggle, right? This is fundamental. We have to encourage each other to not always say, we'll just have to walk with it. No. Remind each other that there's some, like, if I'm like, oh, I'm getting out of the chair. I'm like, oh, what one of you may say to me, what's wrong with you, right? Another one may say, well, you have to take care of yourself, right? It's like, yeah, I haven't exercised. Is that logical to say that? A lot of complaints about like arthritis, the arthritis, a lot of people don't realize the arthritis a lot of times is coming from lack of movement. So the arthritis of our souls too is coming from this issue. There's no tahajjud for a lot of us. For many of us it is, but for a lot of us there's not a tahajjud. So in the beginning of the da'wah, the reality is that if we, at this point in time, let's just say that we're trying to carry the deen. We're like in the time period of the Sahaba, in the sense that we're at the beginning of the da'wah. Don't get too caught up in the fact that some masajid have bigger space and chandeliers, because the deen is not established. You understand what I'm saying? The deen is not established. These are just like, we have spaces and all of that, but we're struggling to establish the deen in our lives. And I'm not talking about anything really grand. I'm talking about just our families, our community. So this is something we have to, that's what I'm saying. Like when I'm coming out of the chair, you see me in that state, we have to remind each other of this regard. That everyone, this is a personal journey. See what I'm saying? This is not going to just come with Salat al-Jama'ah, this and that. No. This relation, because sometimes Salat al-Jama'ah is just, we come in and we're rushing and our minds are not even there. Without that spiritual base, we have to keep reminded the temptations and the struggle, everything will overcome us. Right? And so we want to see this. So this is Mudathir. As has been explained above, the earliest revelation to the Prophet ﷺ consisted of 5 ayat, Surah Al-Alaq, which it has been said to read. That was the The first encounter. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't say, I understand, I know, I this, I that. He humiliated himself before Allah. I don't know. Right? This is some of the things that I try to encourage in some of the brothers. Kill your intellect at that point. You know, use your intellect to understand, but there's a point where we're going to have to say, life will, if we don't say it by ourselves, life will be the servant, the abd of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, and will take his charge. It will humiliate you. You gotta say, there's things I can't handle. I don't know. It doesn't matter. One of the things that in the book, Let Us Be Muslims, it's simple. But one of the things that Maulana Maududi does there, which is very simple exercise, is he makes you question yourself. What kind of Muslim are you? And it's okay if you're struggling day after day and you have an understanding, I'm a struggling Muslim. But it's not okay to be like, I don't have a mirror and not admit that I'm struggling, not admit that I have this issue, not admit that I have, not admit that I have to grow. That's not okay. See what I'm saying? The routine practice of Islam is not okay. The cultural practice of Islam is not okay. The benefit, what's the benefit? That, the benefit becomes that I'm in this Muslim family. I'm married into this Muslim family, and there's a benefit, and I'm not maybe really in my heart Muslim, but it's like I'm here and I'm part of this process because I take benefit. That's not okay. I married my cousin for a green card, this, that. They have certain expectations, but deep down, part of the condition that they thought it was, I'm going to be a good Muslim. But my goal was like, green card. And then when we turn around, it becomes like, hold on a second. You took my daughter. You understand what I'm saying? But, you didn't follow through. And it's not, I'm not talking about issue of judging people. No, I'm talking about the issue of spiritual life. So the issue that he's shaking us up is that's why he puts it, let us be Muslim. What holds us back? So that's the issue. If initially we don't say, I don't know. Like, forget about the saying to you and you and you to each other. To saying to Allah, Allah, I don't know. We can't go anywhere. And so here, lastly, we come back to that, to Surah Al-Alaq. And then, we see how everything is tied together. And we want to end on that note. So, do you see how the Prophet ﷺ is characterized in the Quran? How it is that the relationship to the Quran, to revelation itself, how it is that it's showing. This is a little different than sitting with every ayat. This is giving you a big picture, right, view of each surah. And so now we took a block of surah of the Quran all the way up to Fatiha. From Surah Al-Alaq to Surah Al-Mudaththir to Surah Al-Muzammil, Surah Al-Qalam to Surah Al-Fatiha in the order of the revelation. Right. But do you see, what's your, I want to end on that note. I want to end on, who do you see the Prophet ﷺ to be in that regard in terms of a model? Who do you see? What kind of human being? What kind of human being is painted here in this story of the Quran?
He's very humble for the community. He is concerned about the community because they are all need a guidance for them, for whole community.
Right.
He's requesting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide every one of us.
Right.
Take out from the darkness of the society. So God has given him that thing. Okay, take this and give it to him.
Right.
Somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who can lead people to the right way.
Did from the beginning, did Allah ever paint a picture that it was going to be easy?
No. It's always going to be obstacles. Part of it would never be easy. But then that's the test for itself.
Imam al-Balkhi, he has a book on sustenance of the soul, which is actually like a spiritual psychological book. And they're using it now to talk about how the Imams of the past dealt with cognitive psychology, especially. What did we say about the nature of life then here? It's a point of Aqidah. What is the Quran teaching us about the nature of life? It has, hardship and ease. But, okay, is struggle built into it? Okay, so does depression have a role in this? If you know the nature of the thing as it is. That's part of the reality. Even the Prophet ﷺ, when the wahi, whether we agree 40 days or a few years or when it stopped, what was the impression there? Didn't he go to his wife and try to figure out, alayhi salatu wasalam, what is going on here? See what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes, we have to accept that there's this bitterness, there's sweetness, there's hardship, there's this. If we become, some of the ulama, they teach us, and it's a very hard lesson. We ask a lot of facility for. At a certain point, there's no difference between the bitterness and the sweetness. It's all dunya in that regard. Sometimes we don't know where the khayr or the goodness is at, whether it's in the struggle or not in the struggle. This is one of the most difficult things in marriage. In marriage, to tell people, what do you think is going to be? A party? It's going to be like your wedding event, every day of the week? Beautiful food, beautiful gathering, beautiful everything. Everything is every day of the week. You didn't understand that what you were celebrating was, your entrance into the struggle of life together with another. You see what I'm saying? Because what does this society teach the children? FUN, what does it teach the children? Huh? Fun. And then when the fun is not there, what happens? Yes. You see the marketplace. You see how the marketplace changes our understanding of the reality of life. And so, we want to end with that note of saying that that's not, we have to have a balance between the two. And we have to know that sometimes you get sick. When you get sick, what happens? You get tired, you get whatever, and you come out of it. You live life, you die. You know what I'm saying? There's sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's sad. It's part of the nature of life. Sometimes we may have to put you on medicine, you know what I'm saying? But not for every instant.